Hey guys, let's talk about this soapstone. Now, I have attached a template for you to look at, but if you need a little bit more information than what is on that piece of paper, let me walk you through what you could be doing right now for the pot of basil soapstone. First of all, soapstone is an acronym, which means that each of these letters stands for another word. This T technically should be capitalized, but it means tone, so I think it'll be okay. So SOAPSTone is an acronym, and the acronym stands for the subject, occasion, audience, purpose, speaker, tone. Let me walk you through each of these. I'm going to do this rather quickly. If you need more information, I would love for you to reach out. Subject will be your first S, and this is the one that you're probably going to like the most because all this one is going into the text itself and pulling out 10 important words, a list of nouns, pronouns that stand out. Sometimes you can have small phrases and put those together, like ill fated love. For the pot of basil, on that sheet of paper, I number 1 through 10, and you're going to fill in the blanks. Well, here are some examples. You could pull names like Lorenzo. You could pull murder, brothers. And again, if you would like to put in something like ill fated love, and that's going to be a phrase that goes together, and that's fine for subject. That's how you do that. Next is occasion. There are two different types of occasion. One is immediate and one is larger. For what we're doing right now, we are only going to look at the immediate occasion, and that the long and the short of that is going to be the plot. What is going on in the poem or in the story itself? Because prose is anything that is not poetry. So what's going on in the plot? We could say the plot. Girl falls for guy she can't have. They have an affair. Her brothers eliminate the threat. She cries a lot. Ghost comes back and tells her to stop crying for him, and then tell eventually what happens. You can do this very quickly. It can be very brief. It can be in just a couple of lines. You don't need to write an entire paragraph for the plot or for this occasion. The next letter is going to be A for audience, and the question is going to be who is this poem or story intended for? Translation, who has a vested interest in it? Who can relate to this story? So for this story, I'm going to put this one in so that you can see it. Out of Basil audience. You're going to start your audience by labeling it with people who, and after you write people who, then who could relate? You could say something like people who have lost um, someone they love, or people who um, have known what true love is, or anything. You can go from the other side and you can look at the brothers. So, who would have a vested interest who can relate to this story? After that, you have the single most important letter in the entire soapstone. If you only get one part of it, it needs to be this part, and that is the purpose. Why was this written? Why was this story written? Now, I kind of told you, and Ms. McLean kind of told you, that this story was written to entertain. It was a story being told as part of a storytelling competition as a bunch of people traveled from place to place. But we're going to go and look at just the story itself. So, what can we learn from this story? To do this one, we're going to need to plus a verb. We talked about verbs earlier. Your verbs are going to be your action words. So we're looking at the pot of basil. We could say to teach what or whom. So this could teach the value of honesty in regards to the way the family reacts together. You could have to show and then keep going because you have to show, you have to write to show what, to teach what, to learn what, to examine what. You have to keep going past your to plus a verb. For the speaker, we're looking at two different aspects of the speaker. This is going to be the voice that you hear in the story. Now, the voice that you hear in this story is just going to be a random third person narrator. You know it's not first person because you're not listening to the voice of Lisabetta. You're not listening to the voice like inside the head of any of the characters. You're not inside the head of the brothers or of Lorenzo or of Lisabetta or even of her maid. So you're definitely in a third person point of view situation. On top of that, we're going to look at how to describe a few of the characters. So we're going to be looking at point of view, and then we're going to use an adjective noun combo to describe the speaker. In this case, because it's such a third person, omniscient, because we're kind of getting information from everybody. Now we're going to create some adjective noun combos, and we're going to create two for Lisabetta and two for Lorenzo. So an adjective we learned today is a word that describes a noun. So for Lisabetta, an adjective noun combo that we could use for her is a inconsolable crybaby. That may or may not be really critical of her character. You could put inconsolable, I don't know, lover, and that might sound a little bit nicer than crybaby, but that's kind of where my mind is right now, so we can go with it. You're going to create two for both Lisabetta and two for Lorenzo. After you create speaker, you're going to move into the tone. The tone is the author's attitude. How do you hear tone in this piece? Well, you could hear a number of different tones. It depends on which part of the story you want to look at. And once you provide a word like regretful, and then you can pull a line out of the text that supports why this might be regretful. You're going to create two of those. And finally, major literary techniques. And this is going to be any of that English stuff that you have learned since you were in elementary school. So you can pull out imagery, you could pull out metaphor. There's a metaphor that I'm thinking of right now where the brothers are thinking about what Lisabetta is currently doing with Lorenzo, and they talk about a stain on the family reputation. Well, it's not physically a stain. You can't physically stain a reputation. So that's going to be a metaphor. So that could be one that you use, and then you're going to create another. All right, guys. So step by step, it's just going to be a fill in the blank. Eventually, we're going to take this soapstone template and we're going to turn it into something larger that's going to make all of you sound like geniuses. You are welcome in advance. This is how you do the soapstone for the pot of basil.